Welcome back. Thank you for being part of the show today. If you're just joining us, we just got off the phone with Mayor Mark Chilton from Carrboro, North Carolina. And the situation, Abbey Courts Homeowners Association told one particular owner of 2 units, you cannot use those units for anything other than residential purposes. Yeah. And she was operating her nonprofit corporation, an organization called Human Rights Center.
And she was providing great services to the community. But it was contrary to the Homeowners Association covenants.
Exactly. And there was a big protest, 150 people who just thought that this was awful that the association would do this.
Some of the things we've heard are that the board is controlled by one particular owner who owns 2/3 of the units. He's a landlord that rents out these properties. And the sensibility was that he somehow wants to force this Human Rights Center out of the neighborhood. And so the whole board fell in line and voted them out. Another quote from this article is, "We're not criminals," one of the hardworking people who lives there says, "but that's how the managers have treated us." It's this kind of exaggeration and hyperbole, I think, that makes it impossible to find good solutions.
Exactly. You know, when you take a look at this gentleman who owns 2/3 of the homes, he probably would love the idea that there's a service like this available.
I sure would as a landlord, because I'll tell you what, if I was renting those homes to families, I could say, look, we've got this great...
An added amenity
in the community. Your kids can go here after school to get help with homework. There's a play area, it sounded like. There's lots of activities for... That would just be an asset for a landlord.
But there are a couple things that we've said that probably are constraining them from being able to do that. One is their governing documents. You know, the mayor said, well, you know, I think they could give a variance.
Sure.
You know what? I don't think so. You open it up for one.
That's
now
right.
all of a sudden you're going to be opening it up
That's
for
right.
For
and
others
certainly
as well.
mayor, he understands that position, because he's not going to be changing zoning laws and offering variances to everybody who asks for one for the same reason.
Oh, you're so right. Once a variance, if you're taking a look at a city and a variance has been given for a little bit of a zoning change in one neighborhood, that makes it a lot more amenable for the second person to do the same thing, and a third. And that's how neighborhoods change. That's how the association would change. And they said, and the association board said, we're going to have some liability on our hands if we're not consistently following the governing documents.
And Mayor Chilton even acknowledged that.
He did, and that was
He
good.
said they could be giving up, if they don't enforce the governing documents now, they may lose the right to do so in the future, because someone can make the argument, hey, you never enforced this before, why are you enforcing it on me?
The second part of this, though, too, is the idea that this is just in the mind of the majority property owner at Abbey Courts. I had a chance to talk to the management company prior to the show, and I found out that even though this gentleman or entity does own a majority interest in Abbey Courts, there's a 5-member board. A majority of the board members are individuals not associated with him at all.
So they're owner occupants of their homes.
That, or there may be another person who's a landlord.
All right.
But yes, you're talking about individuals, and so we're talking about an association board that has made a decision, and I'm sure they're taking a look at the wishes and the desires and feedback that they're getting
of all their members.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you, this is what I mean about hyperbole and exaggeration. The protesters and the mayor as well are suspicious and assuming that this board and this landlord have ulterior motives. They're suspicious of the stated purpose. Why? What are the grounds for this suspicion? It seems pretty obvious to me that they're going a whole 9 yards in the wrong direction, and they should maybe start from square one and accept what's being told to them, and then work within that community to try and effect a change.
You're right. There were assumptions that he made, but he did not have anything that he had. There was not any information that we heard where he had gone and talked to them personally, sat down, had
well,
met.
and maybe, or why does he suspect this landlord is against this? That has some kind of agenda against getting rid of this human rights center. He's making that assumption contrary to what the board has said.
Yeah, if you're going to deal with compromise, if you're going to deal with trying to work something out to mediate, you need to find out what everybody wants in the transaction.
That's right.
Unfortunately, that's why mediation so often breaks down, is because nobody will sit and listen long enough to actually listen to what the other person says and what they want. To see if you can build on common ground.
Sure. If you're sitting and mediating and someone says, this is how I feel and this is why I feel that way, do you respond by saying, I don't believe you? I have no reason not to believe you, but I just don't believe you because I don't like who you are. Yeah. I don't think that gets you very far.
No. How about let's also deal with the issue of property rights.
Yeah.
There is this. There was an assumption that I got that, well, this guy can't be up to any good because he owns 2/3 of the property. What makes the amount of property of real property this person owns an issue?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's all. Everyone can point the finger at the evil landlord. We've always got that going, and there is the claim they're making that the guy really controls the community because he owns most of the property.
Well, let's go with that for a moment.
Okay.
Let's say that. We do know that he owns a majority.
Right.
But let's say that he is actually controlling it. It begs the question, doesn't he have the right to? I mean, if he owns 2/3 of the property, let's say, and he's paying 2/3 of all the expenses that go on.
Yes.
Shouldn't he also have a say for at least 2/3 of all of that? Because he is,
a good point,
in a very real way, impacted because he owns that.
That's right.
And so why ownership, to me, the fact that someone has ownership does not make this a bad thing at all.
Doesn't necessarily make it evil. The mayor said, if you support property rights. So it seems to me that this group does not support property ownership rights. They I don't know what they want. I guess they want a free for all of some kind.
Well, I think that's part of the concern that people have had with this Occupy Wall Street or Occupy Minneapolis, Occupy Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
It is such a diverse group. People. There is not a single voice. There is not any understanding of what this group wants.
That's right.
All you know is that
that's right.
That they're dissatisfied with the status quo, whatever it is, wherever they are.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing. Again, if you're going to deal with mediation, you're going to deal with compromise. How can you even begin when one of the parties can't even articulate what it is they want?
That's right. That's right. It's very confusing. And to come down hard on the side of the protesters, I think, is short-sighted and ill-informed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I am glad, aren't you, that, before all this happened, the mayor said, hey, look, I understand that there's going to be protests.
Yes.
But to his credit, he said, look, we're going to expect that everybody's going to be peaceful.
Yes.
And respectful with one another.
Yes.
And you stay off the property. You can protest and you go up to the property. Once you get on the property, if those people call the police,
that's right.
We have to
enforce the law.
We're going to have to enforce it.
And he was giving them a heads up, and he was criticized for it by supporters of the protest.
Yeah.
In the article, it says he was criticized as trying to use his position as mayor to control the movement. The guy supports the movement.
Clearly, that's what he said.
And he was just trying to give people a heads up in advance. Please remember to be peaceful. And he was criticized for it.
Yeah. Anyway, it was interesting. I have not to this date seen any protests with. I I guess with a homeowners association.
Yeah.
This is the first
Yeah.
time that I've seen this happen.
Yeah.
Usually you'll see people living in the association protesting something that the board has done.
Sure.
But here are people that are outside saying, here's a private corporation, a private organization that has the right and the authority to make their own decisions and to govern their own course. And people are saying, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Dangerous ground.
Well, we're going to take another break. When we come back here in our last segment here, we're going to talk about what's happened in Clearwater, Florida, where people have been ousted because of a fire. People are saying things are taking too long. And they think that the owner of the property is just somehow just pocketing money and running away. Is that true? We'll find out when we come back after these messages.